Hey everyone, we got Brian K. Diaz in the motherfucking house.
I'm here.
And Brian does guitar teching. He does photography. I think the first time, I don't even know how I discovered you.
I don't know how I discovered you either.
But I think for me, I was trying to think about it today. It's like, I genuinely think that, I don't know how, but I found you through your photography. I think it was either like through band stuff. And then I just kind of started looking at it. And as I was going through your feed, I was like, fuck, this guy's like really fucking good. And like, you got like a really cool style. And then I was just like, wait, is this guy a guitar tech as well? What the fuck? You know, because it's so like nonchalant, but it's like, I mean, obviously you've had a career before fucking Instagram was a thing and all this other shit. So it's just like,
yeah, I feel like like when I started sharing my photo stuff, really it was like the beginning of Instagram. Like I was like, people were like, wow, like you're a photographer too? Like I thought you were just a guitar tech, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And now it's like there's people that know me or like found me through photography, like you, that maybe didn't know that I worked in music.
Yeah.
And they're like, how do you have access to all these like people and like what, you know, like how are you working on all these instruments from these people or like, you know, shooting these bands live or whatever? I was like, well, I'm a roadie, you know? Like, that was like first and foremost.
Yeah.
Like that's basically what I've been doing since 2003. It's been like my full-time job.
So how did you, I mean, let's just get into it. Like, how did you get into it? I know that's like. Yeah,
no, I mean, not everybody knows me personally, but you know, I started off, I was a musician. I was in a band. You're not going to like this, but it was a ska punk band.
All right. It's over. That's it. Again.
Damn it. No, I was in a ska punk. I was on, from Long Island, New York.
Yeah.
This is the 90s though. So like 97, I think you were legally required to be in a ska band, you know? It was like you were the Bosstones or you were like whatever. And and we played with all those bands. We toured with all them and that was cool. That was like a good sort of introduction to the like touring world and like the first time I ever met people who worked for bands who weren't in bands. And I was like, whoa, these guys have someone that carries their drums in for them, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I was like, maybe I should start thinking about that. Cause like, you just know that the shelf life of a band is like, unless you break big, you better have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Even if you have break big, you better have a backup plan. So, I did another band after that, the band called Reunion Show. And we toured from 2000 to 2003. And then right when we broke up is when I started working for bands. I started with our friend's band from Long Island, Brand New, and then left them. I did a couple tours with them and then left them for Motion City Soundtrack in 2004. And that was basically, I was with them for like 3 years after. That was the first long-term band I worked for. And I mean, when I first started, I didn't really know. I was like, we need a guitar tech for tour. And I was like, okay, what do I do? Like, am I just bringing cases in? I knew how to change. I know how to change my strings. I knew how to I knew some electronics. I wasn't really like, fully like, I learned a lot. I got thrown into the fire and luckily there was other techs on that tour that first tour that I did that were like, oh, you should do this. Learn how to like make a cable loom. I was like, okay. I'm like, how do I make cables? And they were just like, come with me. I'll show you how to do that. And like, it was like a lot of trial by fire, but that first year or two, I learned a lot. I learned enough to get by for a while before really getting into more advanced work. But that was my start. Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. And then you just kind of kept.
I just kept going. Cause like, Motion City went, they went out. I was with them for a while and I think I kind of outgrew them because then I started doing like every job. I was like, at one point I was a tour manager. Then I was like, I was running their monitors. I was doing everything all at the same time, like while teching. And it finally kind of ate me alive. And I was like, I kind of want to move on and just have a life. And in 2006, I was living in Chicago actually. And I just started working at a venue and that didn't really make me happy either. So I need to figure out how to get back on tour. And that's when I got a call to work for Fall Out Boy. And that kind of started the next chapter of my like career. Cause then it was like, okay, now I'm working for a band that's like arena level, big, like rock star band. And once you do that, you start getting calls for all sorts of shit. So it's like, they took time off. I ended up working for Primus and then Sum 41 and Anthrax and Garbage and just a ton of different bands. Yeah. But you know, you build your rep and get out there and you do, you know. Yeah. But it hasn't been without its times when I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I mean, dude, that goes for anything. Even like,
oh yeah.
You know, it's just like it is. I mean, dude, I was kind of telling you before we got started, which is like the grass is always. It's such a dumb saying, but it's true though. It's just like, you know, the grass is greener on the other side or whatever, and it's like you see that other person, and you're like, fuck, I wish. And I remember, dude, I was trying to like. Same thing, you know. It's just like, dude, I was in a band, whatever, blah blah blah.
Sure. I mean, it's like I think that's a pretty common. It's a pretty common story. Like someone's. I mean, most of the techs that I know, most of the people that work directly with the musicians. I'm not saying the people who hang the lights or whatever. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to be like offensive to them. Or I'm always like, that's like the construction workers on tour. Like they're just like there to build stuff, and that's a skill that I don't possess. Like I don't know how to do lights. I don't know how to do that stuff. Like, could I figure it out? Maybe, but like my interests weren't there. My interests were in music, and the next closest thing was to go and work for these musicians or, you know, be around instruments and like amps and things that I was like, this is what I'm into. Yeah. So I guess that transition happens a lot with a lot of musicians. And like, or you go on and you build a shop, you know what I mean? You're just like, well, I'm going to stay getting paid. You know, I don't want to just being in a band was like making me broke.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's that, man. It's like, I mean, dude, it's cool. It's rad what I've done, but it's like I think for me it was like, dude, 2020 was gonna be like my big year, you know? Dude, but I was gonna go on tour with Greta Van Fleet. And they're opening up for Metallica, and then after that, dude, it was just like I knew that I was going to like be like, fuck, if I start going down this path, and I was nervous about it, you know, because dude, I like routines, I like being at home, I like time with my wife, like I enjoy those things, you know. But for me, because I didn't know anybody in the industry and on that side, like it was hard for me to break in, you know. So it's just like I was like, well, fuck it. At the time, I'm just gonna repair stuff here at home. I'll just do that. I'll do that. You know, I just pushed that as hard as I could, and it's cool because like I never planned any of this shit, but like I was able to kind of build a nice little clientele.
Yeah, but you didn't. You know what? You didn't let some people let the last year eat them alive, and like that's not. I mean, everybody dealt with what happened differently. Yeah. Personally, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna. I mean, everybody had their month or so, like all the touring people of like everything went away, and of course I panicked. I sat at home. I cried. I was like, what is happening? Like I'm losing I've been doing this for 20 years. Like I'm losing my livelihood right in front of my eyes. Like, okay, what do I do? But at the same time, I was like, okay, just take a deep breath and figure out what can you do? I can work on photography. Did I do anything exciting with photography? Some things yes, some things no. Sometimes I was shooting real estate photos. Does it pay money? Yes. Is it exciting? Yeah. No. I'd rather be out there shooting a show or out on the street or whatever, And it was always something that was like, oh, this is fun for me, But it's that same thing. Like I had big plans for 2020. Like this was a big year. We were doing a stadium tour. I had just gotten a raise from the band, making the most money I'd ever made. And it was like, all right, grand opening, grand closing, it was that kind of feeling. And man, it was like,
what band? If you don't
with Fall Out Boy.
Okay.
So we were about to do last summer. We were supposed to do the Hella Mega tour, which was the Green Day, Fall Out Boy, and Weezer. So and like at baseball stadiums, like it was a Dodger Stadium and Citi Field and Fenway Park and all this, and like it kept on getting closer and closer to when it was going to happen. And first, it was supposed to go to Europe, and Europe was like, nobody's coming to Europe. And like, if you're European and you're in the States, you're stuck. Like there was no one, no one going in and out. So we're like, I guess that part of the tour is canceled. But I was like, you know what? There's still 9 weeks or 10 weeks before the US tour. I'm like, things will be fine. And I was still like, kind of in my head, like, we're going to get around this. They said it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. We're getting past this. It's going to be, maybe it's 8 weeks to flatten the curve. Yeah. And as you know, we know the end of that story. So, God, you know, it got closer and closer. And eventually you get that email that you don't want to get from management. That's like, we did not want to write this email, but this is the situation. You're not the only people, you know, trust me, you're not the only people in this situation. Like, the band's in this situation with you. They're not going to be making any money. Management's not making any money. All the crew that was on the tour. So like everyone's in the same boat right now. And yeah, I mean, it sucked. It sucked to derail my routine. And that's my routine. Like now my routine's very different because I've been home for a year and a half and I'm about to derail it again to go back to my old life, which is cool. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I think I've said this a number of times to different people, but I think I'm not going to hustle as hard for every little gig scrap, like where it's like, hey, you want to do this 2 days over here with these guys? You want to do 1 week over here with them? You want to do 2 weeks here? And I'm like, I used to just think I needed to fill all my time. Not anymore. Now I want to spend time home, like when I'm off tour. You know, pick up some work, doing a couple of guitars at home, like recording. I've been recording music, like enjoy my life a little more. You know, I think I kind of put that mindset into me that like, this is what I need to do. You know, to be happy.
So for Fall Out Boy, you work with Pete, right?
Yes,
you're Pete's, Bass Tech.
When I started with them though, I was just Joe. No, I was working for Joe and Patrick. So I was on the other side of the stage. Stage right, I was doing both guitars. And then I was doing Pete and Patrick from the other side of the stage. And then there was a point when then everybody had their own tech. It's been back and forth, but pretty much since 2007, I've been Pete's tech and someone else, or just working for him. And right now, everybody in the band has their own person that handles them.
That's crazy, man. I mean,
it is until, you know, you realize like some of these people are like, I don't want anybody to be paying attention to something else.
No, I mean, it's such a beautiful luxury, you know. It's just like where it's like, I mean, dude, I will tell you this. It's like when I first got into it, finally, you know, it's just like, oh, cool, you know, like I fancy myself a luthier, and you know, I luth, and and I work on guitars, and then you know, I show up to like the rehearsal, and it's just like, where's all the amps and everything? It's just, oh, dude, the truck's getting here like in an hour. It's just like, oh, okay, cool, like.
Oh yeah.
And then
your first waiting game.
You know, and it's just like waiting around, and then it's like the truck's here, and it's just like, I mean, I sound like a bitch, but it's like, wait, I'm responsible to unload the amps, and then I got to set everything up, and then this is the gig.
You're like, I don't like this.
No, dude, it's like, I mean, it was very humbling and in a very good way, because it's just like, it just made me appreciate music from like a different point of view. It's just like, oh, dude, like these people like in the audience and everything, like they'll never understand it. Like honestly,
all the things that happened before,
all the things that happen. It's just
and
like
afterwards.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, the show's over for you guys. But I got to make sure that everything is accounted for. I got to make sure that everything's put away neatly. Like.
Nothing worse than going back out there and seeing that one cable of that one thing. You're like, God damn it! I guess this is going in my bunk with me today.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, I guess I'm taking this.
Yeah, you look around, seems like everybody notices.
You know, the classic, idiot check or the dummy check. You know, go in and make sure you weren't a dummy. And man. And it's happened. You know, and then there's people who like to play the game like, I'm gonna hide it on this guy and like make him
teach
sweat
him
it
a
out.
lesson. Yeah.
You know what? You've already taught yourself a lesson by remembering that you forgot something.
Yeah.
Don't stress someone out even more. That's one of my least favorite tour tropes. Like, and that's like an old roadie thing, you know, like, oh, this guy left behind, you left behind this thing. And like, or it'd be like the opening band. And, you know, like the opening bands, it's like they on, off, get the fuck out of here. You know, you're basically kicking them off stage.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a band that left behind a guitar and then everyone was like, what do we do with it? I'm like, I'm gonna give it back. Like, I don't know, like they're still on site. Let's give it back. And they're like, no, I'll give it back tomorrow. When they when they realize it's gone, and then like you make them sweat a little bit and you keep it in the office. I'm like, but like that's not cool, man. Because I've been that opening band. You know, I've been on as a musician because some of these people haven't done that. You know, and like they just like think it's funny and like. When you're in the opening band and you lose like a $500, $600 guitar or whatever, you know, even that, like you're just like, fuck, where is it? And that can ruin your whole day, your week, your month, your show, the tour, you know, losing an instrument. I've been on a tour. We've literally lost an instrument when I was in a band and it was like, well, there goes our whole, you know, we had to replace it. And now we're down all this money that we made yesterday and the day before. So like, I don't like to stress people out like that. Like, hey, this. I'd rather be like the nice guy. Some people say like, you know what? The crew for that band is pretty cool. They didn't do that to me. You know?
That's funny, man. So I feel like I've been on both sides, which is like, you know, playing in a band and then our first tour to South by Southwest and then our bass player.
It's always bass player.
Dude, he forgot his bass at the fucking bar, dude. At like the last dude, we're on our way back to California. We're like in Arizona or some shit. And then our singer, Elaine, it's just like she got a text from one of the bands. It's like, hey, I think you guys left like an instrument here. We're like, what does it look like? Oh, it's a blue Warwick. And then we all look at like our bass player. He's like, I thought you packed it. Or somebody was just like, everyone's just like, dude, fuck off. Like,
man,
you know?
That's like, it's that thing. It's like, and then, you know, when you're in a band.
Sorry, Enrique, I just called you up.
You know, when you're in a band, you're young, you're doing it. Like, you don't think about how like, hey, maybe we really should make a list of who's responsible for what. I mean, when you're on a tour where everyone's job is so specialized, where I'm like, okay, I'm the bass tech. Like I have this, and this. I got to make sure this gets on the truck. He's got to make sure that gets on the truck. She's got to make sure her audio gets on, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, of course, like that makes sense. Like those are your thing. Those are your tools for the day. Like make sure that you're going from place to place. When you're in a band and you're less responsible, and you're just kind of like, yeah, we'll play the show. And like no one's like thinking like, hey, we should all be looking out for this stuff. And then you leave, you're just like, oh, we forgot something.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have that checklist of things. And that's like one of the big things in my life. I always say like on tours, like it's just to me is like a series of checklists. Cause like when I remove the music from it and the everything else, there's just a checklist of things I do every day. It's like in almost an identical order, just because it's like how I'm like, I can't operate without doing that or else I'll screw something up.
Yeah.
I'll forget something or I'll, you know,
or
whatever. And and I don't want that. I try to make it a habit. Just make it how how it is. Like you get a guitar in the shop here. You know, there's probably a number of things you do before you crack it open and start working on it. You know, you're just like, all right, let's check this, let's check that, let's do this. And like, you know, I didn't have that wherewithal when I was in a band.
Nobody teaches you.
No, you learn it by experience. You learned it by losing your bass and having someone call you and tell you.
But it's like it's those things that are like, you know, because like there's MI. Like I went to MI. And I keep talking shit about it. It's whatever, but it's just like nobody teaches you these actual real life things. That I think that's why it's so hard to be in a band. You know, it's just like
you talk shit on MI. I mean, people talk shit on Full Sail. Like in Full Sail, the same thing. Like it's like roadie school or like audio school. I'm like this. I've toured with Full Sail graduates that are excellent at their jobs, mostly audio people who are very like do things by the book or whatever. But a fair number of them say like, first time I was ever in a real live situation, it wasn't like anything that I learned in school. Like I didn't have this pristine studio to work in to like everything was in there was like top quality. Nothing was broken. You show up the first day on a tour and it's like, oh, well, this snake's busted and that thing, that's 4 channels on that doesn't work. You can't get the PA hung on this side. And it's like, they're living their nightmare. They're living all the nightmares that they were never taught all at once every day.
Yeah.
And you know, nothing's going to prepare you for real life.
Yeah.
Like real life. That's the only way.
My the first tech gig that I did, like officially, was for this artist. Her name's LP. She's fucking amazing. I love her.
remember seeing your Instagram stories.
Yeah. Oh, dude, she's so, I love her, and I will always be grateful that, you know, that whole crew gave me a shot. But, you know, it's like, yeah, it's the ones. Like, I showed up to they had one rehearsal, and then the next day they were playing Ohana in San Diego.
Yes.
It's like, dude, I've never done any tech gig, like anything. It's just like, so I'm like, kind of like making notes for myself, and it's just like, okay, you know, like do this or whatever. I have no understanding of anything, to be honest with you. And then it's just like, you know, but I'm like trying to act cool and trying to, you know, whatever. And then it's like, so we show up, it's like, to the festival, you know, early as fuck, and I'm like, well, there's a lot of bands playing. Like, how does that work? How do you, like, it's like, we must get like, I don't know what, like an hour or two. But then like looking at the set list, it's like, well, that doesn't add up, you know? And then we show up, and then Wes, he's pretty much like our manager. Like, he's like, okay, cool. So like they're bringing up like these risers, and I'm like asking him like straight up, was like, dude, so how does this work? Like, I don't know, you know? And then what you were saying earlier about like other techs and other like people kind of helping you out. There was a guy, Scott, on that gig, and he was a sweetheart. I love him to death, and he's become one of my like really good friends. But you know, he took me under his wing, especially during that show, you know. And it was just like, he's like, this is how it works. You know, we get these like risers on wheels, and then you set everything up on these things, and then when it's time, you just go out. And then I'm like freaking the fuck out, because I'm like, dude, I had like this like list of like 30 things
out the window,
dude. Immediate. And then like, dude, my heart is like fucking. And then her fucking wireless unit that she was using at the time.
Oh man,
I'm looking around because it's like
in here somewhere,
dude. It's like it's.
You talking about this thing?
Those fucking things. But it's the one. Sorry, line 6. But fuck,
I know
man.
you guys just gave me some gear, but I enjoy the Helix, but this thing I'm not super.
Dude, I mean, that's like meant for like a situation, like a controlled thing. But dude, she's playing festivals. It's like,
no, that's not for a festival for
sure.
So
her old tech kind of, you know, she doesn't know. Like, she's the artist. It's like, so her old tech kind of set her board up with these fucking things, and then
it's super convenient for that.
Dude, yeah, it's like a right angle thing for her uke.
If you're playing in a club, the room size of this room,
yeah.
Perfect.
Exactly, dude. In a situation like that, and not only that, a tour after that, like a South America tour. So I was just, dude, I did one rehearsal with them. I did this one gig. We had 2 days off, and then we went on tour. We did like 6 weeks in South America. And I'm like, dude, I'm fucking, the whole time I'm like, But anyways, the whole time it's like, immediately, like even rehearsals, it's like it kept cutting out, and I'm like, you know, like, dude, fuck, I don't know, like, dude, I don't know. It's just like, so I figured out that the only way that it would work on her uke was if you push it in, and then you have to pull it out just a hair. It sounds sexual, but yeah, just a hair. And then you get signal. But dude, I did not know this. So anyways, dude, first show, dude, I set everything up. I'm like freaking out. Scott's running over. It's like, hey, what do you need help? Dude, he did Keyboard World. He did drums. And then he was done, like 15 minutes. And I'm like, still like trying to figure out, you know, and like, I'm like strumming her fucking uke like frantically. And like, you know, like in my in-ears, just like I hear like Tim, the monitor guy, he's like, we got no uke. And I'm like freaking out. And I'm like, and then I have Wes, you know, like front of house guy. He's like, Luis, we good? 1 minute. Luis, we good? 1 minute. Oh. And then I hear like LP side stage.
Nothing more relaxing about that.
And I'm like freaking out. And I'm like, I don't, you know, dude, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And I'm like, and then Scott comes over. I'm like, what do you need help? What do you need? It's like, dude, I don't know. It's not working. It's like, I need to check bass. He's like, dude, I got you. And then he runs and he plugs the bass and he's like, boom, boom. It's good. And then literally he's like, Luis, LP's side stage. Like, we gotta go. Dude, I just fucking smacked the fucking thing on the pedal board. And then we got uke. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, fuck. So straight. You're making me sweat right now. I'm like,
I run over, dude. I bring the uke. I'm like trying to act professional. Like, oh, dude, yeah, LP. I know what the fuck I'm doing. I got you, girl. You know, and it's just like the whole time, dude. I'm like,
that's been me. Like in a lot of situations where it's like, clock's running down, and I can't figure out, like, something's just not doing what it's supposed to do.
What's your worst one?
Man, I gotta say, like, one of the worst ones, but it was early on. It was with Brand New. We were in Australia, my first time ever in Australia. We're opening for Blink 182, and we're at, I'll never forget, it was in Sydney at the Hordern Pavilion. Hordern? I don't know. Sydney, Australia. First time there. We had a lovely day off, and we're just like, oh man, this is gonna be great. It was like our first show down there. Opening for Blink at this point, like the biggest tour we've ever done, you know?
Yeah.
And the singer had this, you know, he has this big pedal board that we flew down there that I kind of half put together with him. And it's janky. It's my, you know, it's not like what I build now, like where I know, like, oh, you need to zip tie this down, you need to secure. Like shit was just like not secure. So we check it in and fly it, and you know, you open it up and it's like, oh, everything's all out of whack. The TSA probably tore it apart. So here I am. There was a band. So we're not even the opening band. We're the second of three. So like, at least if we were the opening band, I would have had a fighting chance because we would have been up there before doors, whatever. The only chance I got to check this gear is in the 15-minute changeover. Lay the pedal board down after, you know, I had put it back together to get everybody else's stuff. And I chose to do his stuff last because I was like, whatever, this is last. Then I'll walk off stage with the guitar, hand it to him, boom, we can start the show. It doesn't quite go that way. I spent like almost the entire changeover trying to get this guitar to work. Could not figure out what in this thing was not working correctly. In the end, I think it was something was not powered or whatever. It's something. This is so long. It was like 2003 or 2004. So it's been a while. But I just remember like at some point just bypassing everything except for his wah pedal. I'm like, this is the only thing that works. So have a good show. And he's like, what? And he's like, which is like, do I have a overdrive? Nothing. I'm like, I just overdrive. I go over to his amp and just turn. It's like, you got overdrive now. And he's like, fine, just does the show. And afterwards, I walk off stage. I'm so fucking like, I'm so frazzled. Just like my first in Australia. I'm so tired from flying there. And I'm out in the back. All these cables fucking pile on top of this thing, and I'm just like staring at it. Mark Hoppus from Blink walks by. Looks down at it and goes, "No, that looks like calculus," and then walks away. It's like, God damn it! I'm like, I just got burned by this dude. He's just like standing here because he like watched it. And I'm like, you know, whatever. We figured it out. But that one was like really stressful because it was like, you know, first time in a country, first time doing this big gig with this big band, and like, I don't know. I just felt I just panicked. And I've had other moments where I've panicked, or like there's been times when like, so I did Guns N' Roses a few times, but last time I did was 2018,
dude, which is fucking awesome.
It was. Not gonna lie. I was like 3 years ago today. We were.
And who were you working with? Duff?
With Duff McKagan, yeah. So, you know, Duff's cool dude. Like I didn't know him until then.
How'd you get that gig?
Well, okay, so to go back in 2012, I worked for GNR after this is when before Duff was back in the band, before Slash was back in the band. They had like the weird lineup. They had
Buckethead and
no Buckethead. Everybody says Buckethead. That was like that's like way earlier.
I just remember
Bumblefoot though. Ron Thal.
Yes.
Ron was in the band. Yeah. Richard Fortas, who's still in the band. Who's great. I love Richard. There was 3 guitarists. DJ Ashba, who's like 6 a.m. Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
I mean, he's not gonna watch this. But...
Yeah. DJ Ashba. Dizzy Reed, who still plays keyboards. Frank Farrow, who's still the drummer. Chris Pittman was the other keyboard player, who's no longer. He's been replaced by Melissa. And the bass player was Tommy Stinson of the Replacements. And he was in GNR
that lineup.
For, you know, he was in GNR probably longer than he was in Replacements. He was probably in GNR longer than than Duff was in the band.
That's crazy.
So what happened was his tech, Armand, passed away. In between tours, and Tommy's manager at the time, a good friend of mine, Ben, he called me. He's like, look, this is gonna be weird. I was in the middle of a tour with Anthrax, and those dudes knew Armin because Armin worked for Slayer as well. And they were all broken up about this. And they were like, listen, he's like, I got weird news to ask you. And before he even told me, I was like, I think I know what he's going to ask. And he was like, look, if you don't do it, if you don't come out and do this tour, he's like, just going to hire someone else. He's like, you might feel weird, like you're jumping in someone's grave or whatever.
Yeah.
But I showed up and they were like, you know, my first show was in Moscow. I had no rehearsals, just flew into Russia, flew in, met a bunch of people I'd never met before, just a bunch of techs a bunch of dudes that were, you know, they'd been together for a lot of them for many years. And
how big is that crew?
It's a lot. I mean, now it's like massive because they're doing stadiums. Yeah. Then it was like arena size crew. So, you know, and having 7, 8 musicians on stage, there was 8, just everybody had their own tech, you know? So, yeah, they had me working for Tommy, and the original bass tech for Duff is a guy named Mike Mayhew, McBob. One of the greats, like one of the old school dudes who to date still works for Duff. But in that period when he was not in the band, worked for whoever was playing guitar. He worked for Buckethead. He worked for Bumblefoot. He worked for Robin Fink, whoever. But he also worked for Duff with Velvet Revolver and whatever. And I became friends with him. And he's been great to me. He's helped me out a lot. And you know, in 2018, he got sick. He needed to have surgery, which luckily it was something cancerous, and you know, had the surgery, and he's great now. He's back on tour. He's back to roadieing, back to yelling at everyone and being his character self. But when he needed that done, his brother Tom, who also works, he's Axel's kind of right hand man. Tom hit me up and was like, Diaz, he's like, grab your passport, grab your toothbrush, you're coming on tour. I was like in a casino in Vegas. I'm like, what? What's happening? Where am I going? What am I doing? And he's like, he explained it to me, you know, like, yeah, this is what's going on with my brother. He's like, my brother requested that you come on, you know, call you. And so I dropped everything and fucking went to rehearsal and did it. And it was crazy. Like, to be in that version of it, I'm like, oh, this is a way different vibe. But still the same kind of like, there was a lot of the same crew people that I had worked with were still there. So it was cool. And people that I've been friends with for now 10 years. I saw some of them 2 nights ago. They're in town rehearsing right now. So it's cool. That was a cool thing to get involved with. Yeah. But someone like Duff, like he, you know, he's cool. He's easy to work for. But you can't make mistakes. And I made a mistake one day. I handed him a bass, switched basses. You know, it was like a little like the way the stage is set up. There's like stairs and it wrapped around, and my little world was underneath the stage right. Like I had it was like a room. I had like a little room with all my shit and like my guitars, all my amp rigs, all my shit, whatever. So yeah, I'm underneath the stairs in this room, and they go into a song that I have to change basses, different tuning. So I change basses for him. And like, you know, I have a little switcher there. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Normally I just like switch the bass, end of the song, 2, here we go. And for whatever reason, I grab the bass, I switch them. I walk back, I'm putting it in the vault. I'm just like, I'm like wiping it down. I'm like, just kind of just like, I'm like thinking, I'm like, it's a nice breeze out. I'm like, it's a nice night in Europe, you know, like, and the song starts, I hear the click, you know, like in my ears, I hear the click and the count off, and I hear Frank, and like in the song, it's like one of the new, it's like newer, it's like Chinese democracy. It starts with just bass and drums, and I just hear Frank just, I'm like, God, he's kind of going for a while. Then I'm like, look out at Duff, and he's like staring right at me through this like curtain, and I'm like, oh fuck! I'm like, I didn't turn it on, and it probably was for like 5 seconds. But then it feels like it feels like an hour, and it's in front of 70,000 people, you know. And like, is that the biggest screw up? You know, maybe numbers wise, but like honestly, like after the show, like or like when I had the next break when he came in and was doing whatever, I was like, so sorry about that, man. He's like, he's like, whatever. Like I don't even think he remembered that it happened. Because there's so much going on. Like, that happens. It comes and goes. Matt, like, do I ever want it to happen again? Absolutely not. Like that's like,
God, do you give me
my heart? My heart was like, why is this guy staring at me? And I'm like, look over and he's got bass number 3 on and I've got 4 pressed. Or I'm like, my whole body tenses up. Like, what do I do? What do I press? Who can help me here? You know? But, you know, it happens. It's like, you know, no one has a perfect show. I mean, God, you know, I've seen dudes who are, you know, I always say like, I'm like, you know, obviously don't always be the best tech in the room, or don't be the best person in the room, because there's always some, you know, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room, you know. And I've seen people who are the smartest guy in the room still screw up. So it's like, you know, you can't.
You're human.
Yeah, like it happens. You know. But I also, you know, I won't stop learning from people either. Like I'll always call. I've hit you up for about stuff. I hit up whoever. Like I see someone do something, like, oh yeah, they do that a certain way. Like how do they do that? Like there's no. Should never stop learning how to do shit, you know?
I mean, that's very refreshing, because I feel like even like in luthier, it's like I don't know, there's like this like elitism that sometimes like you see, like I see other people kind of like, you know, like, oh,
well, if you get on the forums and stuff online.
Oh, no, dude. I mean, I don't fuck with that, but it's just like sometimes, you know, it's just like, I don't know, it's just like this idea that like, oh, I build guitars, and it's just like, dude, fuckface, like, dude, you're going off of what like Leo and Bigsby and all these other people. It's like, shut up. Like, I get it. Like, it's cool what you're doing, but it's just like you're standing on the shoulders of giants. That's why I love that saying, because it's like you're here because other people figured it out. You know what I mean? But like there is like this like elitism of like.
Well, to me, it's like the kind of same weird thing when people act like their music is this. I mean, sometimes music is groundbreaking, but sometimes it's just, I mean, you can only play so many notes on the guitar. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
At some point, you're going to put together the same string of notes someone else did. Like, you aren't doing anything that's that groundbreaking until you show me some new thing that no one's ever seen before.
We obviously haven't listened to my music, dude, so...
I'll have to go check it out on SoundCloud.
Yo, what's up?
Yo, let me drop my SoundCloud in here. No, like I just like, you know, I appreciate all sorts of music, and I just happen to be very entrenched in the rock world, you know, from just, you know, regular old classic rock to punk rock to whatever. Yeah. And everyone thinks that they're reinventing the wheel, and it's like, you're kind of not. You're kind of just, it's the same old wheel with some new tires, you know, like it's not, I don't know. But it doesn't mean that I like it any less. Like I will love bands that play music that sounds identical to someone, like you talking about Greta Van Fleet, and people rip them for being Led Zeppelin, rip off whatever. But you know what? They're doing it good. And you know, like they're doing something that you recognize. So like they've mastered this technique. So they're, you know, they're proficient at that. They can write songs that make you feel something that you felt when you heard some like these other songs. I don't know. Like I don't hate that.
Yeah. I mean, with that, it's just like, you know, like I never dealt with them. And I mean, dude, I was excited. Like, you know, I was going to fly to Nashville, and then we're going to start rehearsals, and then we're going to go do this crazy thing with Metallica and Guns N' Roses are obviously for me, like, you know, like, I mean, fucking meat and potatoes of like my dude. Slash is the reason why I'm here. Slash, no, don't, you can't, dude. If you're gonna,
no, Slash is great. Okay. I was gonna say, like, I have a keep going, because I have another another GNR story that's probably, this one might be the most stressful but the most amazing thing ever.
Okay, I'm excited. No, dude, I mean, for me, it's just like, you know, I saw the November Rain video. We had just gotten cable, dude. Like, it was a big thing for us.
I remember that.
It's just like, dude. I mean, it was like 10 years old by the time I saw it.
A cake. Are you kidding me? Dude, that was insane. I know. And you're like, dude, it's just Rain. You don't have to jump through the wedding cake.
I love that whole. It was the first time that I'd ever seen anything. It was literally
that
a religious, dude. It was a religious experience for me. It's just like, for lack of a better way of explaining it, because I was so like, my brother. my brother was like super heavy into like hip hop, like Tupac and all this stuff.
Where'd you grow up? You grew up around
No, dude. I'm from Texas, dude.
Oh, okay.
So El Paso. I don't know if you've ever been mighty El Paso.
I have been to El Paso many times.
So, dude, we lived like in the ghetto, dude. Like we lived like.
When did you live there till?
Till I was, 19, 20, and then then we moved out. Then I got a girlfriend, did that whole thing, and then we got our own place, and then whatever that blew up, and then I moved out here when I was 25. But yeah, man, I remember like, just like it was one of those stupid like top 100 videos of all time on MTV, and I remember like thinking, oh, dude, like the number one's got to be like Tupac or something, and like, and then it's just like, then they start talking, it was like Guns N' Roses, like November Rain, it costs this much. It's like, dude, I don't know, it was so like foreign to me because I had no like nothing, dude, no connection, nothing, and it's just like, this is so dumb. And they start playing, it's like this piano thing. I was like, well, that's kind of cool, man, like whatever. And then dude, like first solo, like outside that little church, I was just like, wait, something's happening. Something's changing inside me.
Dude, solo.
By the end, like when he climbs on the piano, I remember like by the end of it, I was like, I have to play guitar. Like dude, like it changed my fucking life, dude.
Yeah.
Changed my trajectory of where and what I wanted to do, and it's just like forever, I will always be grateful for that. And it's crazy because I'm pretty sure they hear this every single day of their lives. And it's just like...
Well, when you have that much influence over not just rock music, but pop music in general, I'm just like culture in general.
Yeah.
Because, if you think about that era, most of, I'd say like Appetite era, like 87 to like... up till Use Your Illusion. Then Use Your Illusion was like taking it to like another whole other level. But like, I don't think they had a hand in fully like killing the Sunset Strip like glam scene, because they were like not that band. They were like the dangerous, like weird, like sort of like related, like had more to do with like punk aesthetic and like weird kind of like junkies and dude, weird shit. Like it was like dangerous. Yeah. And like, I feel like that had a hand in kind of maybe starting to crush that whole like Poison, nothing but a good time. Like that vibe, which that was the kind of shit I listened. I listened to that and I listened to like Bon Jovi and stuff. And then when I found like bands like that, when I found like GNR, and then it was like, things kind of started turning a little darker, and I'm like, and then eventually that leads you into the like made me find like punk rock and whatever. But I just feel like you have that kind of that big of an influence, that big of a stamp on things. It's almost like it's like otherworldly, like you're just like, how did this happen? Like, like how did it get that big? It's weird.
Yeah,
it's hard not to be influenced by it, and you see it, and if you're a kid and you see that, and you're like, I want to do that. Yeah. I want to do what those guys are doing. Yeah. And that, I'm sure that had part of an effect. I can never say like what exactly. If I had that kind of same moment where I saw like a video and I was like, I want to do what those guys are doing. It's probably a combination of all of it.
Yeah,
dude. And you just like see it, like sitting there watching MTV. Like I grew up on that shit, and I'm like, everything from like new wave to the hip hop dudes to everything. I was like, I want to be in this channel. I want to be in a video. I want to do, I want to do this. I want to make music.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, dude, it was, and I've seen, it's just like when he would have like, like fan meets or whatever. Like when I first moved here, and it's just like I've been so terrified of meeting him. There's one opportunity. My wife used to play bass in this band for this artist, and they played the fuck is it called? Kaboo or something in San Diego.
Oh, Kaboo. Yeah.
Kaboo just like they played that same festival, and he was playing with Miles Kennedy and and so we got backstage and like we're seeing him like side stage and like he's like playing like that. To me, that's like, I'm sorry, I'm fucking like fanboying, man. It's like I remember seeing him. It's like there he is. There's the guy.
I mean,
there's
look,
the guy,
there's
and
like
I remember thinking because we were like like we were walking backstage and I could see his trailer. I remember thinking, oh, this is it. I should just, and I was just like, I can't.
No, like, I mean, look, if you had seen him around, he's cool enough where he'd, if you just kind of, I don't think he wants to sit there and have like a 20-minute conversation.
Oh, dude, I was just about to ask you if you could invite him on my podcast.
Like, let me just get him. Yeah. I think he's under S in my phone.
No, of course not. And I wouldn't, I don't do that to like.
You know what's weird is that I don't think I have that for any musician, mainly because like I always think to myself, I'm like, I could do what you do. Like, yeah. Like, this isn't a skill that I don't possess. Like, you're just a little better at me than this. I'm like, I think I'm more intimidated by like baseball players. Like I see like someone who can throw a ball. Like I'm like, that's like superhuman. I'm like, what are you made of? Like that, you could do that, Yeah. But like someone who plays guitar or people who act and stuff like that, I'm like, I'm never like, I'm just like, you're an actor, you're whatever.
I think because it was such a.
But there are those iconic people where like the first time I was in the same room as Axel, like in 2012, he showed up that in Russia at the rehearsal or whatever. And we're like, I like walked out, I was like, whoa, I'm like, that's really like that's the dude. There he is. Like,
do you interact with them at all? Like,
what's that?
Like with the band, like is this like? Cause I mean, I've never worked with a band that level, where it's just like, with every artist that I've ever worked with, it's like, dude, we're still in a bus together. We're like drinking.
No, we didn't. I mean, at that point, it was like 3 travel parties. It was like his travel party, the band, and like their people, and then like crew. And it kind of still is that way. Although now it's like massive because it'll be like Axel's party / Duff party, and then the rest of the band, and then the crew. And then the crew is like 100 people. So it's like, we would like, there's like a bunch of buses, or like we had, a chartered plane or whatever.
Yeah.
But my first show with them was with that version, with the not the new version, but like the new old version.
Yeah. Hey, Chris,
2018.
You want a little?
Yeah. Might as well just take this little drop and. I'll wait a second here to start this tale, because this is
a good one, huh?
You're gonna enjoy it. I mean, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I have some photos too from it. So thank you. So yeah, my first show with the new old version, which is the reunited band, was 2018 at the Olympic Stadium in Berlin, and we get there, and I already know the schedule. We're gonna, we've been rehearsing for a month out here, and then we're gonna fly there, and then with the full production on stage and everything, we have like, I think we had like 4 or 5 days, and then it was like, the next to last day there's like a setup day for backline, and then the band was gonna come in, fly in, and then the next day was a show. So we do my setup day, everything's cool, get to the hotel, come back the next day, and the band's coming in. And it's getting close to time when we're supposed to do the sound check at the stadium. And I get a text from Del James, who is their road manager, is also like a writer. He wrote part of November Rain and all that. So he wrote the story behind all that stuff. But he's like, he tours with them. He's toured them since the 80s. Del's like, hey, he's like, just out of curiosity, he's like, how many songs could you play on bass right now if you needed to? He's like, if you could play, he's like, could you do like 6 songs? And I'm like, I mean, I could get, kind of get my way through. Like, I could definitely play 1 or 2 songs I know. Like,
dude, my heart is pounding right now.
And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what's this about? He's like, all right. He's like, Duff went to his daughter's graduation, and he's got a private flight coming into Berlin. But he is not going to make it in time for sound check, and we absolutely have to do it because Slash is already on his way. He'll be there in an hour, and Axel will be there. And if they don't get to do their thing, it's going to cause a huge thing. So, here's 6 songs you should learn right now because you're going to play sound check. And I was like, okay, like what? And I'm like, so we did It's So Easy. We did Welcome to the Jungle. I did Mr. Brownstone. Did Civil War. Did that Misfits cover that they always do. Attitude. And Rocket Queen. I learned those in like an hour. I was sitting there. And they had also had Estranged on the list. And I was like, there's no fucking way I'm going to know this because it's like so long and it's like so many parts. And they're like, I'm like, God, can he just land and just do this? I do not. And the rest of the crew was like, you're going to do it? You're going to play? You're going to play? I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm like, this is fucking crazy. Like, like whatever. And get up there and they show up and Slash, they're like, he's like, yeah, they said you can do it. I'm like, where's Axel? He's like, oh, Axel's not going to be here. I'm like, oh, I'm like, so I kind of, I breathe a little easy. I'm like, okay, cool.
We need you to sing too.
And I'm like, they're like, all right, let's go for it. And I'm like, and I ended up doing that sound. I did the sound with Slash. Like, I'm like playing It's So Easy and I'm looking over and I'm hearing him do the solos and shit. And I'm like, my heart is like racing and I'm looking around and like the other band dudes like Richard and Frank, like, you know, like really well. I'm like they're looking at me and they're like, they're giving me like that thing and like, I do It So Easy. I'm like, fuck yeah. Okay. Got through one. Do Brownstone. I'm like, got through Brownstone. And then Slash comes over to me. He's like, you know, Estranged? And I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I'm like, it's too long, too many parts. And Slash goes, all right, Diaz said it's too long, too many parts. No more Estranged ever again. Like he's like joking around. And I was like, yeah, I gotta laugh at him. Okay. He's like, oh, let's do Rocket Queen. So we do Rocket Queen. And I'm like, as he's walking around, I'm like, wait a minute. I know that they do like a fucking super long version of it where I'm just like playing that one, like, so just do over and over and over again. I'm like, oh man, I'm like, I might just be doing that for like, I was like, short version. And he's like, no, full thing with the talk box solo, the whole thing. I'm like, oh my God, this goes on for, do that. We do all the other songs, but like we did it. And like all the rest of the band was like, dude, you fucking killed it.
We're like, firing Duff and you're on Diaz.
And I was like, I go back in my world and I'm like, I breathe easy. I'm like, oh, did it. And I was like, and Axel wasn't there, so I don't have to worry about that. You know, like 5 minutes later, I get another text from Dell. He's like, Axel wants to come out and do this. You got another one in you. Came back and we did it again. And we comes back out. And now I'm up there with
the whole
him
band.
Doing the whole band doing it. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening right now? And my whole crew is like taking pictures of me. They're like, this is insane. What is happening? Stressful, but it was cool that I was able to hold my own. And then in the middle of that, I made it like 3 songs. Duff comes running up. He's like, someone's like putting his ears in front of us. He's walking. He's like, what's going on? And they're like, Slash like, no, it's cool, man. He's like, Diaz is playing and like, Duff's like, you played? He's like, oh, he's just fucking awesome. Like, he was so,
like, I'm going to be late.
No one like told him that, like, he thought he was just like late. He didn't realize that they were already like, I was already covering for him. He's like, oh, that's awesome. He's like, thank you so much, man. He's like, that was huge. It was huge. And I'm like, okay, I played with Axel and Slash. Like, tell 15-year-old me that I did that. I would not believe, like in some like gigantic, empty soccer stadium in Berlin. I'm like looking at him like, imagining it filled with people, and I'm like, God, this is surreal. And as soon as I'm like done, I'm texting everyone back home. I'm like, you're not gonna fucking believe what just happened. I just jammed Rocket Queen with Slash, dude.
That's fucking rad.
It was,
God, dude, fuck.
I did it. I did it.
Holy
that was like,
fuck.
that's probably one of the more surreal things, but it is a testament and it is a tip for all techs out there. Learn all the songs in the set when you can, because you never know when you're going to fill in. One of the dudes I play with, I have a band called Knives. I play bass and sing And Ben Young is another tech that tours with Fall Out Boy, but he used to tour at Linkin Park. He's the guitarist and singer in my band. He's toured at Linkin Park, and he was working for Brad Delson, the dude who wears the headphones.
Yeah.
He was working for him, and Brad got sick or broke his leg or something. But he's like, Brad can't come to South America. You're in Linkin Park. And he did a full tour in South America playing guitar for, 50,000 people a night in like Brazil. And just because, he knew the songs. He's Ben's a play, he can play, like he can learn an album's worth of songs, and he did it.
Yeah.
And it actually happened again with Fall Out Boy. The dude he works for, Joe, he believe it was when he had his second kid. He took a month off or whatever, and there was a few shows that he didn't make it to, and Ben played guitar, and they do the thing where he's like kind of set back a little. You're not in front of the stage. You don't get to run around. But, he did it, and he's like the official like tech fill-in guy.
Yeah.
And there was a point too when Pete was about to have his second kid, where he was like, if you could learn the set just to be on call in case it happens. And I learned the whole thing, and it never happened. I was on a call, and then she held out until the end of the tour. He was like, after Red Rocks, basically is like, the whatever. It was like 4 or 5 more days left. And I was like, all right. And I'm like ready to go. If you need to go, like, peace out, like I'll do this. It'll be easy enough, but never happened. But it's just a good thing to have in your pocket, because you never know. Nobody's infallible, Are
you purposely hurting these people so you could play? Have you ever thought about
that? It's like a Tanya Harding kind of thing.
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
It's like you pull a Nancy Kerrigan on it, smash it.
Duff, what happened?
Oh man. No, I'm not doing that. I just like, I do like to stress that importance though. Like it's like it's like you're like it's most likely never gonna happen.
Yeah.
But it's always good to know. And it's just good to know if the band, you're gonna end up learning those songs at some point. Like the band members don't come to soundcheck or whatever. Like you
because you are. It's just like you're 1 degree.
Well, they just they trust you with their gear, with their sounds, with their tones, with their whatever. Pete for years now has trusted me to just get the things that he needs. He doesn't think about it. He doesn't think about what he's playing, or like not what he's physically like not the songs, but like the gear that he's playing. Like you don't think about it. Like I tell him, hey man, I'm like, this would be good for you. I think this is a good a route to go. You should go with this. Yeah. And he's like, okay. Yeah. You think it's cool? I trust you. Yeah. And I dial in the sounds. I program shit for him. Whatever I got to do, and I try to do that for all the artists I work for. I want it to be as seamless as possible. Some people are a little more knowledgeable with their gear than others. Like Traynor is very knowledgeable. He's very fractal savvy, and he gets pretty deep into it. Yeah. I know you said you had a story about it.
Oh my god! Yes.
Not trying to lead you back to that.
I know. So now I'm like fucking regretting. So he started. Like, I don't even know how we started following each other, but it's just like, dude, I do my thing on Instagram or whatever, and it's just like who is this beautiful man that's like this like hair and then like really nice mustache. I know, it's just like, and then it's just so dumb, but it's like he's verified or whatever, and it's just like, dude, I've been a Bush fan for a long fucking time, and I was just like, oh my god, fuck, that's like the guy from Bush. It's like following me, and then whatever. I don't think much of it, and it's like sometimes like he'd like my things or comment on my things. She's like, oh my god, fuck, Chris Traynor just like commented something on my thing. Oh my god, like I tell my wife,
he's a big emoji commenter.
Yeah,
he's a big a big like 3 fire emojis, or three clown faces or something.
Dude, it's just like but dude, he was like one of the first guys that like I felt was like, fuck, man, like Instagram's a thing, man. Like if
you find random people on there, or like that's happened to me too, where like some random person who I'm like, oh, that's the dude from Bad Religion or whatever. Like someone like, random band people that I'm like, oh, I know who they are. And we have mutual friends or whatever. But like, I don't really know that person. Like how did they end up seeing this photo or whatever? And it's just weird. I don't know how that algorithm works. It's weird.
It's so crazy. But like, I mean, like I said, dude, it was like one of my first, cause like I was telling you earlier, it was like, dude, I mean, I always wanted to, like, I love being in a band. I love playing guitar, but I've also always just loved like the mechanics of the instrument, and like I've always just liked it, and that whole thing, and like I don't know, just working behind the scenes and all that. Like I've always had a thing for that, but it's just like being in a band to like fuck this, like, oh, this is too hard. There's like 6 different opinions that I see the like the traps within that. It's just fucking hard. That path, I mean, as you know, so it's just like, well, I don't know what else could I do, and it's like, well, I like this other shit and everything. And anyways, long story short, like Instagram was my thing, was just like, fuck it, like I'm gonna just post the work that I'm working on and then just be really good at that.
I think it's really cool the way you do it too, because it's like you show the behind, like the kind of guts of things, and I think it demystifies it for a lot of people. It doesn't give away the whole trade secret, but you present it in a way that's like, hey, if you're gonna do this, do it this way. Like, make your wiring neat. Make this, do it this way. This is junk. This is whatever. This part, throw it out. Whatever. Like, just like little things like that. When you present that to people, they think it's like people find it interesting. And I don't have anywhere near of a kind of presentation that way, but like I'll put some of my work online and I'll be like, whatever. People are like, oh, that's so cool. Like, what do you use to do that? And I'm like, this is not a trade secret. I'll sit there. I'll be like, use this to clean the chrome on this. Use this if you're gonna clean, work on your neck, or if you're, don't be scared of doing this because it's not that hard or whatever. But like, I'm not saying any of those people are gonna try to do any of that in a professional manner. If you do, then you really should like read a book about it, or at very least watch some YouTube videos. Don't just go out there and just try, like, unless you have a beater guitar that you just want to fuck it up and do whatever. But it's cool when like I see what you're doing, and it's you're kind of showing this way in like a cool, like sort of just the way the way that kids like to see it, like the very modern guitar tech, but like the very like like presented like for Instagram, for like as content. How about that?
Yes,
presenting instructional things in a cool looking way as content makes it so that people see that and they're like, oh, like I think I can do that. And like, you can. I don't know. I'm not saying I don't need to hog all the work. You can learn how to fix a guitar too.
Well, like, I don't think it's just like, dude, I mean, I've always said this too. It's just like, dude, I mean, I've worked for a lot of luthiers, and like I went to school for this shit and whatever. It's fine. Like you learn a lot there, but it's just like, like working with like luthiers and repair shops around the area. Again, dude, with the end goal thinking like, oh, dude, I just want to get picked up for a tour, man. I can't wait. But like in the beginning, it's just like, no, fuck off. Like, it's not that it's like brotherhood or it's secretive thing. It's just like, it's just an industry. It's its own world. But like, it's like anything else. Once you jump in, you're in. You know what I mean? It's just like, especially like, and you'll stay in if you're competent, if you're good, if people like you.
And that's a thing that I'll get those kind of questions from. Like
today, sorry to cut you off, but it's like, like I asked, like, hey, like Diaz is, I'm just gonna call you Diaz now too.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's become.
It's like Diaz is coming in, and it's just like, like ask him questions. Like, dude, like 20 of them were like, how do you get in? How do you get in? How do you do it? How do you get to that level? And it's just like, because that was my fucking question, dude. It was just like, how do I get in? Like, let me in. Who is it? Who do I got to talk to?
Honestly, for me, and this is really my in was just the luck of having been in a band that toured with a band that became bigger later. And that was, you know, and I got asked to do something at a time when I was like not sure of what I was going to do with my future. I was like, am I going to go back to being a tour person and a touring tech, or am I going to continue working in a venue in Chicago? And it was like just that right opportunity from people that I knew already, you know, like, you know, in 2003, one of the last tours I did with my old band, you know, it was us and Fall Out Boy. They were opening for us, and we were playing little clubs and whatever, and we just became friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's the more than anything is to always be friends with, like, if you're in a band right now, be nice to the opening bands, because one day they're going to be picking you as their opening band on a tour. Or, you know, we had this thing. It was like on the tour, like, all right, whoever gets big first, they take the other band, they take the other guys out on tour. And my band broke up. So they got big and they took me on tour, you know? And that was kind of the route with that. But I think, you know, part of it is like, don't ever stop learning, but don't like downplay yourself. Cause like, I kept on thinking, I'm like, man, I don't like have the right skill set to do this and work for this. And then I realized, I'm like, you know what? A lot of these people don't. And there's a lot of people I know who work for bigger bands than me that, not a lot, but there's some people that just like, I don't know, they still don't know how to do certain things or whatever. And I'm not saying I don't know how to do it. I don't build guitars. You know, you build guitars. That's something that I would love to do. And like, I when I have the space and the tools and the time to really like focus on, I'm like trying to do that from scratch the first time. Like, you know, it's something that I will learn to do. And I am very like, when I'm very driven to, when I want to learn something, I was like, I want to learn how to put together a video in Premiere or fucking animate something. I just like went and did it, and I powered through it until I got it. So like, I think a lot of that is perseverance, like getting on tour with bands, learning how to be a tech. It's perseverance, you know? And that's like, people ask that, like, how did you get there? How did you one up that? How did you land that job? It's like, man, people saw that I had a good work ethic, I guess, you know, and they shot me a call, you know, but start small. That's like, start small and be nice to the people that are smaller than you, because they're going to be your boss one day. That's literally the only thing I can say is like, just be nice to people, man. Cause like, people remember things for a long time when you,
and that's just like good life advice in general, you know?
Yeah.
It's
When you screw someone on like anything, they'll just be like, yep, those guys, not helping them out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean,
it happens, man.
A few questions that I do want to ask you before we wrap this up.
Sure.
There were some, again, like 20 of them were like, how do you get into guitar tech? And it's like, I feel like,
I know. I mean, like, and you're gonna, that's almost like, it's almost an unanswerable question, because I got into it because I always had an interest in like taking things apart as a kid, and then just parlayed that into being a, you know,
Howdy, Brian.
Howdy.
How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm doing
well, there's
awesome,
one.
Man.
Here's a good one. How do you inspire yourself to do more?
How do I inspire myself? I mean, I often just looking for inspiration from other people, and I see like, well, I always look to other people to see what they're doing, and I'm like, okay, this person's doing XXX, I can do X times 5 or whatever. You know, like I'm gonna push myself to do that one extra thing, or I just kind of, I don't like hold on to things for too long. Like if I get something done, I don't like sit and dwell on it and romanticize it. I'm like, got that done. What's the next project? That's kind of how I just keep going, like banging it out. Not like in a weird factory kind of way. But like in a way that's like, cool, I accomplished that. Let's do the next thing, you know?
Dope. This is actually a really good one. Because he's really fucking good at photography as well, which is insane. Like,
no,
dude, yes,
it's like anyone can play guitar, anyone can shoot a photo.
No, dude, you're fucking good. Okay,
thanks.
so here's the question: what, if any, iconic artists' photos do you wish you would have shot or inspired to do what he does? No. Yeah. Like who?
Okay. I'm really into concert photography, and I really my favorite concert photographer is Neil Preston. He most famously shot Queen a lot. He toured with Queen, and the photo that he shot, that my favorite photo of his, I'd actually like, when I have money, I will buy a real print of it, but it's Freddie Mercury. It's a famous, you've definitely seen it.
Yeah.
It's at Wembley. And he's bent backwards, like, and it is like a pin of light over him, and it's like so perfect. Like, to think he had caught that on film, like in a film camera back in the 70s, like that exact moment, the sun, you can see the crowd. It's like
1 in a million.
Perfect. It's a perfect shot, and it's just like, I don't know, it's an iconic photo. Just look up Neil Preston. It's Neal Preston. And look up Queen. He has a whole book now that's just Queen photos, but he's taken so many incredible shots. He took the shot of Robert Plant with the dove on his hand, and like, I just wish I could have been Neil Preston.
Yeah.
How about that? I just want to be Neil. And I met him at NAMM, and he was he was the nicest dude. He signed my book, and I was I was like, hey man, I'm like, I tour with bands, but I'm not, I'm like, I'm a guitar tech, whatever. And then he mentioned, he's like, I used to tour the guitar tech, like Red Dog or whatever. I'm like, oh, you mean the guy that they based the character in, like, Almost Famous on? Like, he's like, telling me about like this. So he's like, and I was like, well, I'm also a photographer or whatever. And he's like, I showed him my camera. And he's like, come on, let's get a photo. And like, someone took a photo of us, and I'm like, this is great.
That's
like, it's like,
badass.
and he was like super nice. And
yeah.
Like, yeah. Anyway, that was cool.
What is your favorite guitar that you've ever worked on? I mean, a lot of these are just now like fucking.
My favorite guitar I've ever worked on. I mean,
you just worked on some pretty dope.
I did a bunch of stuff for just actually really recently for Butch Vig.
Goddamn.
And Butch famously produced Nirvana Nevermind.
Yeah.
But also like Smashing Pumpkins, Siamese Dream, Sonic Youth, Dirty. like pretty small records. Yeah. Some of these bands, hopefully they make it one day and everyone can hear their music. But I was going back and forth to his house. He lives in Silver Lake, and nicest dude. I love Butch. I knew him from when I did Garbage, and he's a drummer of Garbage.
Well, you're gonna get him on my next episode, right? You promised me.
He's actually waiting outside. That's all. So you wait for me. He gave me a bunch of stuff to work on his first studio. There was actually some really killer guitars there, but the very last one he gave me, I went to his house to drop off the last two, and he's like, I got one more. He's like, I don't have a case for it or anything. He's like, but this was a Hagstrom that Pat Smear gave me. Pat Smear from Nirvana, or the Germs, then Nirvana, then Foo Fighters, gave me this Hagstrom that he, it was like a Nirvana era thing that he had. It was a beater. It was pretty shot, and I brought it back to life for him, and I was like, I don't know, this thing was like, played it like in Nirvana, like that's pretty wild. Like, it wasn't my favorite guitar to play, because it's a Hagstrom. I don't love
Take
them.
That Hagstrom.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna give me a sponsor. I don't even. Are they still a company?
We're canceled anyways, dude. So no one's listening at this point.
Yeah, they've already like they've made up their minds. But that was pretty. That was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool guitar to have worked on. Just like working on Duff's stuff was crazy. Just like, I don't know, or like I didn't work on the guitar, but I held the Cheap Trick 5-neck. My buddy Larry Malero was Rick Nielsen's tech until he passed away. Not Rick, but Larry. And Larry's someone I knew from when I toured Sum 41 and whatever. But they were doing a show at the Greek, and I went and saw him, and he's like, "You want to feel it?" And I pick it up, and I'm like, "This is like a heavy ass beast." That was pretty cool. Like, I don't know, like I am lucky to have been around a lot of famous instruments, where I'm like iconic instruments, where I'm like, oh, that was used on this recording. Pretty cool. Like, I'm pretty sure one of those 12 strings I worked on for Butch was like a 12 string that he used on Siamese Dream, like an electric 12 string. I was like, and like, got it back into shape, and then you plug it in and you just strum through it, and you're like, there it is. There's that tone. I recognize that.
Oh,
It was like stuff like that is like, that's pretty sweet. I don't particularly want to work on anything that's like too crazy. Like, so a friend of mine, he's a tech for Jason Isbell. Jason famously recently bought a 59 burst that belonged to Ed King from Leonard Skinner. And this is like a $500,000 guitar. And it is now my friend Mike's thing that he's got to take care of. And I was like, dude, what do you do? Like, if he's like, I need this adjusted, and be like, are you doing it, or are you sending it out? What does it do? And he's like, no, I do like basic maintenance on it. He's like, if it needs anything really serious, like, even if it needed like, I mean, he's like, I'll do setups and whatever. But like, it's like, it's in good playing order. And I'm like, where does it go? And he's like, it just goes in a case with him. He's like, he takes it to the bus, and like, he doesn't travel with me. He's like, I don't put it. It's like go like in a case in a truck, the guitar. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, and because I had tweeted about that when he bought the guitar, and I was like, and I tweeted at Jason about it, and Jason's like, oh, don't worry, Mike don't have to take care of it. And I was like, okay, like, at least I know he's not worried. He's not like the custodian of a $500,000 guitar. But Slash has shit like that out on the road. He's got some heavy pieces out there. And Richard Fortis just bought a burst. He bought a 60, and like, someone's gonna have to take care of that. It's like, at some point, it's like, a friend of mine just, he said like, it's a tool, not a jewel. And I'm like, yeah, but there are some tools are jewels too. Like,
oh yeah. Oh, dude.
I don't know. Like, that's an expensive tool,
And then there's a bunch of other dumb ones, but mine that I ask people is like, what is the golden nugget of advice that you wish you knew when you were, say, 21?
When I was 21, God, that was 46 years ago.
If you could tell yourself now, like, dude, this will,
man, maybe like eat better. No,
I mean, those are important ones.
I will say, I just, full disclosure, I've been through periods of my life where I was extremely unhealthy, like drug wise and whatever. And I think I would tell my 21-year-old self, like, do not do what you're doing now 10 years from now. Like, cool it and maybe maybe take some things a little more seriously. Like, I feel like I had some like lost years, even though I was working and doing things. And I just feel like I shaved some years off my life that, man, I would have just told myself to quit smoking way earlier too. Like, before it became a real health issue. Like, I don't know. Just like, I think my advice would be like, take care of yourself better, because when you're 44, you're going to fucking feel it.
Honestly, man, I think it's fucking rad. And I mean, I don't want to talk about race, but it is cool to see someone that has the same skin tone as I do, been doing it for so long, and not realizing that there's people already doing it there, and thinking, damn, that guy could do it. I could do it too. You know what I mean? So you're a trailblazer, dog. You're doing it. You've done it. And I appreciate you. And I'm so glad that I got to meet you, man. And you're a great guy. And
you're great.
Yeah, we're all great. But no, seriously, dude. Thank you, man. And it's been rad to see you through the Instagram, and like I said, even the photography thing. It's been super cool to see someone, even for me, like, cool, he's a guitar tech, but damn, look at that. Like, he's got all these other passions.
Keeps me sane, man. It keeps me sane.
So I appreciate you, man. And thank you for coming out.
You.
And let's do this again after maybe a few tours.
Yeah, I'll have some more fresher stories. These ones are getting stale. No one wants to hear about Slash anymore.
No, yes, dude, trust me. That's probably going to be like the point where it's just like everyone, dude, honestly, man, that was fucking rad. And
thanks for having me.
Dude,
for
thank
real.
you for
awesome.
Sharing that with us.
Thanks.
All right, motherfuckers. Chris, as always, thank you, buddy. We had a few technical difficulties. We're trying to figure them out, but it's all good. It's all good in the hood. We love y'all, and peace out, motherfuckers. No, actually, wait. No. What's your band?
Oh, I have a band called Knifes. KNIFES, Knifes.
Okay, and then
it's Knifes_band on Instagram and everywhere. We have a couple EPs that just came out, and they're on Spotify. Go check it out.
Dude, you're about to be flooded.
Yo,
with,
what up? What up?
And then photography. Do you still sell your
I do.
prints?
BrianDiazPhoto.com. I got stuff up there, and anything on my Instagram, Brian Keith Diaz on Instagram.
It's for sale.
And like, yeah, I just hit me up on there, and if you see something that strikes you,
cool.
I've been trying to kind of roll it back as tour is about to start, because then because I do all my printing myself, so it's hard to do when I'm on tour, but you can figure something out.
Cool.
As usual.
And then last thing I will say is stop asking this man for backstage passes, y'all. Stop it.
I know you're all outside Dodger Stadium waiting already. Ain't gonna happen. Sorry.
All right. Dude, love you, buddy. Thank you so much. And yeah. All right. Peace out, motherfuckers.